Gen Z's music taste explained by Angry Cactus. I'm not gonna lie, I think Gen Z has the best music taste, but that's just because I'm part of Gen Z. So let's see what he has to say.
Music. Who doesn't like music? When it comes to music, every generation has its defining sound. The boomers had rock and roll, Gen X had grunge and hip hop, and millennials had pop punk and electro pop. And then there's me and the rest of Gen Z, whose defining sound is, well, all of them. So you must ask yourself, how did this happen? Why did this happen?
I want to answer that question before he gets into it because I have my own explanation of why I think Gen Z has the best music taste. And that's because the availability of music at our disposal. When we were growing up, we had access to the internet. But not only that, the media that we were consuming, like cartoons, social media, and different things like that, were very vast in terms of its music exposure. For example, SpongeBob. Now I know late millennials and Gen Z got to experience SpongeBob too, but it was mostly Gen Z who really attached themselves to SpongeBob. But regardless, if you look at all the most popular songs from SpongeBob, they're all diverse. You have the Jellyfish EDM song. You have Split My Pants being like a pop Beatles song. You have Sweet Victory, which is like a Queen rock and roll celebration song. You have Gary, Where Are You? Kind of like this R&B slow ballad. And these are moments in the show that we instantly remember because the songs are really good. It's not just Hawaiian guitar theme songs that we hear while they're running through the jellyfish, fields and stuff like that, or SpongeBob saying it's the best day ever kind of thing. We remember these things. And that's just one source of media. If you look at YouTube as our when we're growing up of terms of age, there's so many different people listening to so many different genres of music that when we go on social media and we see these songs blow up for memes and things like this, it's no wonder why we're the most open-minded to music versus generations prior to us. They had to spend actual hard-earned cash to listen to music. And think about it. If you had to spend music to listen to, if you had to spend money to listen to music, you're going to be less open-minded to give new artists and new genres a chance, just in case it's trash. Because if you listen to an artist and you're like, oh my God, this was bad, you're not going to want to hear it. But let's see what he has to say. I could go on this subject for a long time.
And there's the stereotype of boomers, Gen X, and the occasional older millennial to be like, kids these days don't have taste. They don't listen to real music. But in reality, I think they just don't get it. I swear, they just have a higher attention span and lower levels of brain rot, It keeps them closed-minded. For Gen Z, it's no longer about genres, it's about vibes. That's why I have so many playlists, all different for the most part, for whatever mood I'm feeling, whatever situation I'm in. It's not about genre, it's about what mental illness I feel like having in that moment. In this video, I'm going to talk about why Zoomers have approached music somewhat differently from previous generations, along with identifying the music artists and genres that would best describe Zoomer music as a whole.
Okay, good one. I have so many genres.
Music in all generations is a reflection of...
I will say, with the advent of the internet, it does feel like there's more genres than I can keep up with. There are some genres when I hear people say it, and I didn't even know they were talking about music. It's just like, wait, what? Vaporwave? That sounds like a microwave setting. It doesn't even sound like a style of music. And there's a lot of examples of this. I actually kind of want to know how many different genres are there in the world. This doesn't account for different languages, different cultures. They can have their own subgenres of very popular genres. And then that's like a whole, rabbit hole of music. So, Jesus, there's probably more genres out there than maybe stars in the sky.
Of the times and the values that people hold, the zeitgeist of whatever time period. So the Gen Z's ever-shifting music is a reflection of rapid shifts in tech, culture, and identity. And it's pretty obvious that Gen Z music taste is mainly driven through the internet and advancements in technology. The advent of the smartphone plus streaming has given you access to infinite music of every time period of every genre 24/7. Past generations didn't have a choice. You listen to the radio. If you had CDs or cassette tapes, you're limited by space and portability. But now Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all within a few gigabytes on your phone, and included with it comes algorithms that recommend you music and tailor the listening experience to you specifically. People don't listen to the radio and MTV is dead. You get your music tastes by experimenting. You don't need to commit to a genre, you kind of just listen to everything and anything to create your own personalized musical identity. It's kind of like...
Which I will say, I think is a plus. I think it's a good thing that people are so much more willing, open-minded to listen to stuff. Now, there are still some people who are casual music people who just kind of listen to the same 3 genres of music. I listen to everything except country. Like, the fact that that sentiment is a very popular thing out there is something that's still prevalent, but I think it's changing throughout the years. As more artists try different things and, are willing to expand, their taste, it's, sooner or later, we're not going to even identify music by genres anymore.
Going to the cheap like Chinese buffet, like eventually the first 1 to 2 plates, you kind of get everything from broccoli beef, some pod stickers, and the weirdly solid jello. By round 3, you kind of just know what you like, so you only get those, nothing but sesame chicken and fried rice. You kind of sample everything, and then you personalize it to yourself in whatever vibe you're trying to create. It's all about how you feel. And this applies to not just music, but people's identities as well. Like, the internet created infinite subcultures and communities. You can find them on Discord, Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, even Tumblr at one point. You can find people with the same interests as you, no matter how weird and niche it is. There are communities for everything. You can branch out and explore whatever you feel like. You like lifting, you got Gym Talk. Like anime, you got any Twitter. Memes, you got r/Playboy Cardi. Near infinite microgenres, niches, and groups to be a part of, each with their own aesthetic, style, and vibe to help create who you're trying to be. And look at all these aesthetics I found. Got like indie sleaze, adventure core, minimalism, nerdcore, Spanish golden age, skater, princess core, paramilitary, Afrofuturism, e-girl, cottagecore, normcore, slutcore, hypebeast, foodie, paleocore, and all of this has been exacerbated by just TikTok.
Were those? Wait, hold on. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about the vaporwave. Were those aesthetics or genres of music? Because I've never heard of slutcore. Like, I can't even imagine what that sounds. I mean, I guess you could imagine what it sounds like, but I think those were aesthetics. Because let me know if those were genres of music, and if they are, recommend me some music, because I want to hear some of these things.
Culture, short form content in general, TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. It's an algorithm that doesn't promote genres, rather it promotes moments. The more views, the more it's pushed, and the more people start to tap in. Culture is now pushed by a short form content. Subsequently, this means that content, memes, and moments are constantly shifting. And not only shifting, but the internet moves on from stuff really fast. Memes, for example, now only last a week, a few days maybe. Something's got to be big in order to stick. Even then, it only is going to be around for like a month at most, and the second half of that meme's lifetime exists in a post-ironic and meta-ironic state. Short-form content being so popular also goes to show the need for constant stimulation, that ADD type beat, increasing the Gen Z need for more variety, especially in music. From here, we can see that musical identity for Gen Z is emotionally driven, culturally inclusive, platform native, and aesthetic and vibe focused.
I will say, let me go back to that little list you just gave, because I think that's a good... Okay, musical identity of Zoomers. Emotionally driven, culturally inclusive, and platform native. Wait, there was one last one.
Platform native and aesthetic.
And aesthetic and vibe focused. This definition, or this observation of the Zoomers, I think perfectly shows itself in the 2016 SoundCloud rap era, where the older heads of hip-hop, the older fans of hip-hop were saying, this music just sounds like mumbling. Like, I don't get why people like this. And people who were, at the age where it was getting popular, Zoomers, Gen Z, they were talking about, it doesn't matter what they're saying. It matters how they say it. It doesn't matter about, the certain beats they choose to rap over. We're over boom bap and that 2000s bling era style music and soul sampling. We're into video game sampling. We're into long, drawn-out EDM, kind of like ambient sounds, like Location by Playboy Cardi. These are all vibe-focused. And platform native means, like, where you found it is also, like, the culture around it. For example, if you were heavy into SoundCloud, there was this SoundCloud kind of community aesthetic of finding leaks, trying to find, Reddit posts and things like this. And it was a community that grew, and it became like a big thing. We all see with the results of it today. So yeah, I think this is a good explanation of that phenomenon.
Vibe focused is about curating versus conforming. Like, even Spotify creates and recommends playlists for you based on what vibe you're looking for, if you're not looking for a specific genre. But I
will say the Spotify, like, things that the mixes and stuff like that, the playlists they make, are pretty trash. Like they don't. I think the algorithm for Spotify needs to be revamped or redone because it feels like I just get recommended the same bands and same artists all the time. Maybe different songs from the same people, but regardless, it's not new people I've never heard before. I want people I've never heard before more than people I've heard. Like I get it. I can go to my like songs if I want to hear bands, and check out their music. I want to hear people I've never heard before when I click on a Spotify playlist.
I had to box in Zoomer music tastes to a few genres and artists. Here's what I've observed based on what is trending and what all the people I know listen to.
Okay. Hyperpop.
Imagine if the human embodiment of pop music snorted a 2-foot-long line of Adderall and crushed an entire 12-pack of White Monster.
Jesus.
Then felt nostalgic about the early 2000s internet era that they weren't a part of, then decided to make music. That's hyperpop. Take the basic parts of pop music and turn it up by 100. The BPM, well, consistency is overrated. BPM will change and should change direction sometimes because the artist got bored 30 seconds into their minute-long song. BPM is really high and also extremely volatile. The vocals should be auto-tuned and pitched up, and make sure the bass and treble are blown out. Your speakers should sound like they're slightly melting. The music combines pretty random stuff like pop, bubblegum pop, EDM, emo, and punk. Make sure to add in a decent amount of audio glitch effects, and there you have it. Hyperpop. If you did it right, it should give off a sweet, nostalgic, anxiety-driven vibe. And artists that create hyperpop would be like Glaive, Brackens, Charlie XCX, 100 Gex. Perfect for the generation raised on the internet and indoctrinated by meme culture and general chaos.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a very Gen Z genre. Bedroom pop, 100%. Close your eyes and imagine. That's another thing with music from Gen Z. I think Gen Z was maybe not the first generation to kind of explore making music in their bedroom. That's probably millennial with the advent of technology and the internet and DAWs and stuff like that. That came in like the late 90s. But I feel like Gen Z took that and ran with it. They made it more like solo. Like you did everything by yourself. Like you wrote the lyrics, you played the instruments badly, of course, most of the time. But I don't necessarily. Actually, maybe millennials are contributed to that too. I don't know. I'm just
talking. It's summertime. You're sitting by your window, watching the big fluffy clouds float ever so slowly by. You feel a cool breeze brush over you as you see the golden hour sun start to set. The sunlight filling your room with a faint golden hue, creating a silhouette of the potted succulent on your windowsill. You reminisce about your life, the highs, the lows. You ponder what it means to truly love, and whether or not you'll find it. Nostalgic, alone, and in love. That's kind of the vibe of bedroom pop. A lo-fi aesthetic, muffled vocals, a slower tempo. Chords are more mellow, reverb is added for a dreamlike effect. The musicality of overthinking a text at 1 a.m. And artists for this would be like Claro, Biba Doobie, and Rex Orange County if you're looking for something a little bit more upbeat. It's music for Gen Z. The lonely...
Okay, Mac DeMarco, Rex Orange County, Claro, Biba Doobie. I've never heard of that. That one, I was thinking that was like an ad lib or something. Claire Rosinski, or I don't know how to say her name, Rosencrantz. But these are good bedroom pop artists. I would add Men I Trust. I think these are also good. That's another good band to add. Yeah.
And most rejected generation, a generation that simply yearns for authenticity and connection. And here it is.
Hip-hop.
Probably
100%.
My most listened to genre. Probably the most influential, at least in the past 3 decades. It's no different amongst Zoomers, but I can hear some of you old heads right now. Playboy Cardi isn't good. That's not real hip-hop. Sicko Mode, Fiend, Juice WRLD, XXX, that's not real.
Yeah, I think they need to add a caveat. They need to add a specific eras of hip-hop, not just anything from the 80s and 90s to the 2020s. It's really from 2010 on. And maybe Kanye. Kanye's the only artist I could think of from that had his start in the early years that really transferred over to Gen Z, like to the later years, so even 2020s. But he's a phenomenon. He's not the norm.
Rap, that ain't real hip hop. I thought Tyler the Creator was gay. Might as well say you're a balding 40-year-old who only listens to Jay-Z and Tupac. Like, bro, listen to some Pop Smoke and 21 Savage or something. Holy. It's good. Trust me. Especially since it's all about vibes, you can kind of just find everything in hip-hop right now. From trap, boom bap, West Coast, East Coast,
My favorite
emo
era,
rap, drill. There's so much. And hip-hop music has always kind of been influential. But I think even more so now. You know, music by like Travis Scott, Juice WRLD, Playboi Carti, Tyler the Creator, XXX Temptation, and pretty much anyone.
The way I like to explain this era of hip hop, and I know I keep pausing, but I have a lot of things to say, is that this is when hip hop, I think, started to branch off from the core essence of hip hop more than any other genre. Like, yeah, in the 2000s, you had Backpack, you had, Bling era, you had Gangster, you had all these different genres, but it all felt like they kind of pulled from the same references. They all pulled from the same pot. But this era, 2010s and on, it felt like they were like just completely different, like people, like different, like almost like a different country of references. And that's why I feel like it was the most like diverse in terms of styles and, techniques and skill sets and, vibes.
One else from the 2016 freshman cypher, really. It's everywhere. Everyone listens to it. Zoomers are no exception.
Honorable mentions, okay.
Before we get to the last genre, here are some honorable mentions. Indie pop, it's bedroom pop adjacent, like you're dancing in your room, but you're also a little sad type vibe. Indie, alt rock. It gives that kind of hopeful, upbeat DIY garage
he's getting
band
really specific
feel,
at this point.
The cool but kind of awkward vibe. Country, don't really know why, but Morgan Wallen has popped off, and we got people like Shabuzi as well. Look at the Billboard Top 100. I don't really listen to
Morgan Wallen, sure, I'll give that. Even though I don't know Morgan Wallen's fan base, like the age range, like he's a good country singer, don't get me wrong, but he also could be like catering to the older generations of country. I haven't really given his music a chance. Maybe I'll check it out. If you guys want me to check out Morgan Wallen's music, let me know. But yeah, so I'm not too familiar with him. Shabuzi, yes, he's more of a Gen Z kind of country artist. But unfortunately, I think he was like a moment in time, like a little Nas X in terms of like his sound is very unique and people like he has that kind of like appeal where you're like, oh, a black guy with dreads making country music that's kind of like has hip hop elements. Okay, I'm going to check it out. But until he releases another album, I don't necessarily know if he's like a staple of Gen Z rather than just like a moment in time. Kind of like Fetty Wap. Fetty Wap had his moments. He had his reign where he was putting out bangers, and then it just kind of disappeared. And he was kind of always time locked to that early 2010s music, and no one really saw him more than that. But yeah, you could say he's Gen Z too. So I don't know
country that much, but I know a ton of Zoomers who do, and that has to be saying something.
Okay, so
you have K-pop and global music in general. The New Jeans, Burna Boys, and Bad Bunnies of the world. You have access to global music, so as long as it sounds good, we don't care where it's from. We'll listen to it.
That's TikTok core.
And so the final Gen Z defining genre is the term coined as TikTok core. This is essentially a broad term for whatever gets big from short-form content, mainly TikTok. Something like TikTok can skyrocket an unknown artist into stardom, while shooting already big artists through the stratosphere. Songs put to edits, memes, and thirst traps. All you need is a song that goes crazy for 15 seconds, and that's all you have to hook anyone nowadays. And if you're an artist and you're not already tailoring your music for short-form content, you're missing out on a massive audience. The artists that get big are all doing this with their songs in some way. For example, take Sabrina Carpenter and Espresso, almost 2.3 billion streams on Spotify. That song was created in a lab to sound good, chemically.
Yeah, this is where I feel like a lot of industry plants, that term, are going to strive. Like that's where they're going to build a name, but they're not going to build any longevity. In fact, even content creators itself are not going to build a longevity on TikTok. They have to transfer over to some more reliable and some more assured platform. Even musicians, they're going to have to start putting out albums. They're going to have to start putting out longer projects, music videos. Look at Ice Spice. She is a very TikTok heavy kind of rapper, and she can't really build a loyal fan base outside of TikTok. Like all her music doesn't do well outside of TikTok. And that's just because she's honing in on that aspect of content creation. Which, you know, is cool, but is it sustainable? I don't think so.
Distilled to be perfect. Followed the formula to a T, from the beats and the length of the chorus to the hook and the vocal.
Then again, I say I Spice, but Doja Cat is maybe like a TikTok centric artist. You could argue that, like, in the very early stages of TikTok, Doja Cat was the first big pop star, in my opinion, that came from, you know, that style of music. And she's able to build a career off of that. So it's possible. I'm not sitting there saying that get away from TikTok as fast as possible, but you will need to make that that transgression, that, you know, that switch.
It was made to be catchy and accessible to everyone. Like, listen to it. It's really good. And it was made to spread like wildfire on TikTok. It's totally different from something like Cult Status by JPEG Mafia. The complete opposite. TikTok core music really is just the defining genre for Gen Z. If it were like a genre, it really could just be anything and all kinds of music that just decides to pop off one day. I listen to a lot of music. My Spotify Wrapped said I listened to about 93,000 minutes last year.
Wow.
I've made way too many playlists, and what can I say? I get bored easily. When I'm at work, when I'm lifting, when I'm flicking heads in Valorant, I'm listening to something. When I'm at home, lying on my bed doing nothing, I usually have my AirPods in listening to music of some sort. And what happens when I get bored of my playlists? I check out whatever playlist is recommended to me, or I use Spotify's AI DJ to play music that is similar to a specific artist or matching a certain vibe I'm looking for. I'm a Zoomer. I listen to pretty much anything and everything, and if I like it, I'm putting in one of my playlists like I just captured a Pokemon. So yeah, that's Gen Z Music Explained. If you need more music to listen to, I'll link my Spotify below. You can check out the playlists I made and see if any of them fit your vibe or what you're looking for. And here are a list of artists I'm currently listening to.
Okay. Leon Thomas, great up-and-coming R&B singer, 100%. Playboi Carti, we already know he's a banger. Jordan Ward, haven't heard. JPEG, we already know. Don Tolliver, staple. Ben Staples, staple. Genevieve, I've heard a little bit, but not enough for me to be too familiar. Kyla, I've heard her, of course, but yeah, she still has more to prove, in my opinion, in terms of, like, you know, where I put her in terms of R&B and pop music. The Moss, La Seraphim, and Polyphia. I haven't heard any of these groups. I'm going to check them out.
A lot. That's about it.
Okay, so that was Angry Cactus's video, Gen Z's music type explained. I think that was a good video. I think he explained it really well. I think we agree upon a lot of the points in terms of, like, why Gen Z listens to certain things, how they came about certain music, why they, you know, gravitate towards certain trends and things like this. It's basically summed down to the internet, you know, and unfortunately, a lot of things in the music industry has changed because of that. Because people are so, like, fixated on short form and, like, you know, short form gratification and things like this, albums are no longer that important. In fact, I reacted to a video recently, which you should go watch right now if you want to know more why I think albums are dead. But without further ado, make sure you guys leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel.